Chapter 6 of Little Woman was very shocking, and the ending was much better. Little by little, this series is getting very interesting and leaves us with a lot of expectation. At first you might think that this story was just about some poor sisters going through hard times, but we already know that it has more content. In the last minutes of episode 6, we were shocked when we saw Oh In-ju on the floor full of blood while holding Oh Hye-Suk. It was really something we didn't expect. But what happened here? Who killed her? That's why today I'm going to talk about theory that explains who could be the real killer of Hye-Suk. But first, remember to subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell to be among the first to see our content. Let's start by saying that Sangha is showing In-ju as she really is. At first we could interpret that Sangha was going to get special treatment, but it seems like not. Sangha told In-ju to go to Singapore to the Orchid Festival on her behalf, and clearly explained to her that the festival is part of a money laundering scheme and that it was done by Hwa-young. In-ju tells her then that's why she made so much money, and Sangha told her that she must have felt omnipotent, and that money does that to people. In-ju asked her why, if her friend betrayed her, she was trusting her for that job. Sangha told her that Hwa-young didn't have anyone, but she does have her sisters, and if you have someone you love you can't do anything reckless. Then she said that Hwa-young changed after her mother passed away and put that look as sarcastic. Sangha gave her the orchid and told her to keep the flower next to her when she goes to sleep because it will bloom that night. She told her that it has power if she smells it all night, and she will be able to see what she really wants. After telling her the benefits she is going to have in Singapore, she tells her that if she does a good job, she will put the orchid in the father tree, and confesses that her organization is called Jongran. With all this information, we know that Sangha has already officially let her know that she is in a criminal organization, but not only that, she also threatens to kill her. Recall that she did the same thing with In-hye when she told her that she had an orchid for her, but it was going to be up to her if it stayed on the tree. So if the orchid you get doesn't go back to the tree, you are very likely to die. But also in this scene we could find out that Sangha most likely killed Hwa-young's mom, and most likely that was the reason why she wanted to run away, and that was Sangha's way of punishing Hwa-young for what she did. With this we are clear that In-ju must follow all the instructions, because now it's not just about making money, it's about keeping her sisters alive. Now, In-ju was supposedly talking to Hye-suk and complained to her about the family matters. She complained to her and brought out her own theories on how to solve and do justice about all the things that the one family had done. After that we realize that In-ju is in bed, and apparently the whole conversation she had with her great-aunt was part of her imagination, or part of a dream. However, she gets up disoriented and walks around with the blue orchid in her hands. Then In-kyung enters her great-aunt's house and sees that terrifying scene. She sees her sister full of blood next to Hye-suk dead. This scene was very surprising because the first thing one would think is that In-ju was the one who murdered her. This would be very normal to believe because we know she was drugged because of the blue orchid, and secondly she was at the scene of the crime. But was In-ju really the murderer? If you noticed well, before In-kyung entered the house, the door was slightly open, so we could assume that someone could have entered. Recall that Hye-suk met with Jae-sang and they had a very interesting conversation. There we learned that Hye-suk knew Jae-sang's father, and with what we could see apparently she had helped him and they knew each other very well. It seems that two things happened in that conversation. Hye-suk complained to him because since she paid for In-hye's medical services, her real estate business started to go bad. But also, apparently the lady knows something very delicate and could have made some kind of threat to him. For this reason we know that Jae-sang had reasons to kill her, as she could be a big problem for his candidacy. Now, there is a strong possibility that Hye-suk's death was by Jae-sang, as we must remember that In-kyung found out that most of those who were in the Orchid organization or had any relation were dead. and only a few were left alive, and among them was Hye-Suk. So it was expected that sooner or later they would have her killed. What many are wondering is whether Jae-sang really killed Hye-Suk with his own hands or it was someone else. Some believe that Jae-sang might have done this because we saw images where he was supposedly killing Hwa-young, but we must clarify that those images are in Ju's imagination, and it was not a real-life thing. We are not sure that it was him, and it may be unlikely because he is in election time and it is not convenient for him to do that. So it could have been some of his men working for him, and many say it may even be Hye-Suk's housekeeper. Although many might think it could be In-ju because of the scene we saw, if we see the previews of the upcoming episodes, we can see that she is free and focused on other things. Also, she had no need to kill her because she didn't suspect her, and although she was under the effects of the orchid, apparently the flower doesn't make you act impulsively but rather creates hallucinations and has a more relaxing effect. But we can also think that there is a suspicious person who could have committed the murder, and that is Choi Doyle. This character makes us a little curious because he has presented himself so far as passive despite the history of money laundering that he has. We can think that he is only interested in money and maybe he doesn't commit those types of murders, but we can also think that he is very dangerous and maybe he can surprise us in the last chapters revealing his true intentions. An important detail of Hye-Suk's death is that they left the evidence of the murder at the crime scene. That makes us think many things. For example, that she was not sent to kill by Jae-sang because the scene was left as dirty and he did not use the orchid as the main identification. Of course we could say that the orchid was in the scene, but we saw that it was not left by the alleged murderer but by In-ju herself who had it in her hand. But of course all this is very suspicious and we could think that this death was not committed by the same person who killed Hwa-young and the director. This is because the previous crime scenes left no evidence, and in this case they did leave the evidence very palpable. However, we could also think that they left the evidence with all the purpose to blame In-ju for her death or maybe someone else. What is certain is that in this series nothing happens by chance, and everything has a purpose, so we soon find out what it is. Who do you think was the real killer of Hye-Suk? Let me know in the comments so we can read them. If you liked this video, like and share it with your friends.